Hello, my friends. Welcome to Talk to Me Tuesday for Tuesday, September 23rd, 2025. This is Jennifer. Last week I shared with you guys the tool bag that I made for my sewing stuff for when I want to go sew with a friend. So I knew even before I started that project that I was going to need a safe way to carry my travel iron because I used to have a steam fast and then they recalled the version that I had and they sent me a new one, which was great, except it was an entirely different footprint than the old steam fast. It's quite a bit bigger. So the bag that I had for it didn't work anymore. So I ended up putting something else in that bag and I made a new bag to go in my travel kit. So this is what it looks like with the iron inside. This bottom is a laurel birch fabric that Jules actually gave me this ages ago. It was already quilted and it already had Insulbrite and cotton batting inside. So this was ready to be used for a project like this. It had these stitch lines and then I added some across here and then cut it down just a little bit to make it fit my iron. Again, this was another project made entirely with stuff I had on hand. So the tie is from a fat quarter bundle that I purchased from Hip Stitch in Albuquerque. So it has Hip Stitch on it. For anyone who's watching who doesn't know, that's where my best friend Jules works, Hip Stitch in Albuquerque. And so here's the little handle of the steam fast. So when you pull the drawstring completely open, it's basically a little tray inside and the iron fits inside. And then this is the replacement steam fast. This is a lot bigger than the original one that I had. If you guys out there had an older steam fast iron, they were much smaller than this. On the inside, I stitched it and I serged it, but I didn't do any binding or anything like that because this is a tool caddy and I decided to have time for that. So this was the fabric that was already on the other side of this. So just use that as is. This is more leftover scraps from my sewing machine covers. And this was 2.5-inch strip cat fabric that I hemmed. It was just the right length to make this little drawstring tote for my travel iron. You may have noticed I have this little cable wrap as well. I was concerned that when I packed it, if it was still warm, it might damage the cable. So this is literally just a quilted strip, a leftover quilted strip that I serged the edges of and put ties on one end. That's all it is. There's nothing fancy going on here. So it looks like a giant gift tag like this, but just a little wrap to put around the power cord so that this guy is protected if I have to pack it and it's still warm. The other project I worked on was a little bit silly and kind of extra special for me. A couple of months ago, my aunt sent me some patterns that had belonged to my grandmother, and I think I might have shown you guys those in a previous video. So when I was cleaning out all of my stuff to rearrange my sewing room, I went through all of my patterns and I found some treasures in there. I already showed you guys a blouse that I made from a pattern I found in there. Well, one of the other patterns I found in there was Miss Hen and Chick from That Patchwork Place. This pattern is copyright 1980, so I was 7 when this pattern was made. This would have been an intentional purchase. My grandmother lived somewhere where there wasn't a sewing store nearby. There wasn't a place to go purchase something like this. So she probably ordered it from a magazine or a catalog and had to sit down and fill out a form and write a check or put her money in and mail it off in order to get this. So she wanted this pattern, which doesn't surprise me. My grandmother is the one who I've mentioned before inspired me to rescue Raggedy Ann and Andy's. She made Raggedy Ann and Andy's, but she also rescued baby dolls. She loved baby dolls and she would get them from garage sales and things like that and clean them up and make new clothes for them and give them new life. Obviously, she has been a huge inspiration in my life, in my sewing life. And so anyway, so I got this pattern and I was like, oh, that's cute. That looks like something my grandmother would have liked. But then later I opened it and I pulled the pattern out and there were pieces of fabric already cut for the bonnet. And of course, I immediately thought, I'm going to have to make this because my grandmother cut it out, right? So this is an unfinished project. It's one of my favorite things to do is to finish projects. I love finishing UFOs. And this one is a gift I mean, such a gift from my own grandmother. I want to show you guys just a single pattern piece because this pattern is handwritten, hand drawn. The instructions are typed out, but they're very simple. I'm not going to show them too close. I don't know if this is still in print. I will check for you guys. I have my doubts though. Hey guys, it's me from editing, and I did check, and that patchwork place does not exist anymore. They went away when Martingale dissolved in 2023. There are a few copies of this pattern floating around out there. I saw one on Etsy and one on eBay, so if you're interested, there you go. So this weekend, I just decided it was time to make this chicken. Miss Hen is her name. So this is her. This fabric was the fabric chosen by my grandmother that was all cut out and ready to go. It's a rose pink, and pink was my grandmother's favorite color. Her kitchen was pink when I was growing up. And I did my best to find fabrics in my collection that would complement the pink because it's not really my color. I love bright colors and lots of tonals and things like that. But I do occasionally buy fabric that's thrifted, and I was going through my fabric and I'm pretty sure almost everything I use came from Austin Creative Reuse. So they fold their fabric in a very specific way, and this was definitely from ACR. These dots were from ACR. I believe this one I already had. This one was from ACR because I used 3 different ones to get enough fabric to make all of the wings and the tail and everything. And then this fabric was from my stash. This was a little scrap left over from another project. This is a little piece of felt, which is what the pattern called for. And the eyes were only, in the picture, were only 1 button, but I tried to make them look a little bit more like actual chicken eyes. This was a really fun project to make. There were some crucial instructions missing from this pattern, but I've been sewing long enough to know that there were certain steps that needed to happen. I would just read through and make sure I wasn't missing it further down the line. I will tell you, probably the most amazing thing for me about this project was when I ironed this fabric, because it was quite wrinkled from being in this pattern. My grandmother passed away a decade ago and wasn't able to sew for quite a bit of time before that. So it's been in there a long time. When I put my iron on this fabric, it released a smell that it smelled like my grandmother's house. And guys, I was actually shaken to my core by this sense memory. And it was a really special moment. I feel like I spent a couple of days bonding with one of my favorite humans who ever lived. And yeah, so now I have a chicken. Miss Hen, 1980, that patchwork place pattern. She does sit up very nicely, so we'll just let her hang out there while I finish this video. You guys, thank you so much for watching. I hope you're doing well. Please hug the people you love. Do something crafty for yourself. Massive thanks to my coffee supporters. You guys are amazing. Have a wonderful week. Have a crafty week, and I'll see you next week. Bye.